Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Rebooking to Mastery, a podcast where I break down some important concepts from books that I've read over these past few years. And so, the book I'm going to continue talking about on this episode are the 33 Strategies of War. The 33 Strategies of War is one of my most favorite books that I've ever read by my absolute favorite author, Robert Greene. And it's the idea of winning war without bloodshed and confronting this necessity for strategy. And so, on this episode, we're going to finish up the 6 fundamental ideals to become a strategic warrior, starting off with number 4, which is worship Athena, not Ares. So if you remember from the previous episodes that talked about the necessity that war is ultimately not something that is based on showing up with a sword or a weapon of choice and hacking your way through whichever army you choose to, but rather the wisdom, the psychological warfare, the art of war itself. That's what this principle focuses a lot on. So, it's the idea of focusing on this wholehearted rationality and pragmatism. This idea of entering the battlefield when the battle is over and having won without bloodshed. The idea of blending a sense of philosophy into this war idea, blending a sense of wisdom, and attributing the battles you may need to fight into a blend of philosophy, wisdom, and a grand strategy at war, into an unbeatable blend of knowledge of the enemy's movements and understanding and self-awareness of your own self. We like to think that the wars that rage outside of us are the hardest fought and the most strongly won. But more often than not, it's the ones that we fight within ourselves that are the cause of many tribulations. And our mind is the thing that betrays us the most, more than any other person. Our mind is the thing. Until we direct warfare at our own self and become more self-aware, accepting and knowledgeable about our own self, the hardest battles will be fought within the planes of your own mind. And it's important to understand that. And it's important to focus on this rationality and pragmatism to kind of catalyze the benefits and change you want to create within yourself. And that leads into the next idea, which is elevating yourself above the battlefield. So remember that strategy isn't necessarily, like I said, the idea of becoming this Ares, this god of war, and meshing yourself in the middle of the battlefield, unable to see beyond the sight of your own nose or your own eyes. It's rather commanding an entire military operation, standing on top of this hill and viewing the entire battlefield that is laid out in front of you. It is creating the tactics to move your entire army, not just win one battle. It has to do with dealing with the immediate needs of the battlefield, not the troops you find yourself next to. If you can keep these goals, these ideas, these thoughts in your mind, you can easily decide when it's necessary to fight and when it's necessary to walk away. And you can make tactical decisions of daily life far more simpler. Because you have these North Stars, you have these ideologies, you have these thought processes that define your waking moments. It's not pursue this unrelentlessly. It isn't necessarily that. It's more promoting awareness, promoting this idea that you have these goals, these initiatives, and that requires you to elevate yourself above the battle that you're facing right now and look at the war effort that surrounds the entire battle that you fight right now. It's not an attempt to push away the battle. It's not an attempt to repress it, but rather to provide perspective and even ask yourself if this battle needs to be fought. Does it really contribute to your goals? And that's the idea of elevation. The final one is spiritualizing your warfare. As mentioned before, the greatest battles are fought in your own head, especially if you have gotten some degree or measure of power. And so it is important that you must declare unceasing warfare upon yourself. It is important that you must direct as much energy onto yourself, far more than you release outside. Because if you master yourself, if you attain a sense of self-discipline, then it is impossible for you to be shaken. Very difficult, rather. Not impossible, but very, very difficult for you to be shaken. You must welcome this combat. You must welcome conflict. And you must welcome it as a way to better yourself, to better your skills, to gain the courage, confidence, and experience necessary in order to fight on. And you are forging a warrior spirit. And the only way you're going to reach that place is through constant practice, constant challenges, constant falling down and getting back up. And it's important to acknowledge that strategy requires a different approach to life. It doesn't require the standard kind of a drifting leaf falling off of a tree kind of life. It requires a constant contact, a constant interaction between knowledge and experience. And if you achieve this in terms of strategy, this constant contact between increasing more inputs for increasing your knowledge and also increasing your inputs for experience, they both will feed off each other, and you'll become far more of a warrior, far more of a strategist, far more of a war fighter, not a battle fighter. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Rebooking to Mastery. If you'd like to follow me on all platforms, I'm on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram at Rebooking to Mastery. And if you like my content, feel free to drop me a follow on whichever platform you're listening to this on. Thank you so much, and see you guys next time.